Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Welcome to another video. So it has been a while since I've done a true Tales from a Retro Gamer episode where I go back to my past and talk about a story of growing up during the golden age of gaming. It was an awesome time. So let's go back to 1981, junior high school. I was 14 years old and I was absolutely obsessed with playing the Atari 2600, the Intellivision, the Odyssey 2. Now I would play these at my friends' houses, at my cousins' houses, because these were too expensive for us. We didn't have a console at this point. I didn't get one until '82. And so I was going, I loved my bicycle and I loved playing basketball. These were my interests. And going to the arcades, holy cow. So it was a great time for video games, my bicycle, and just checking out the arcades. Absolutely loved it. And one of my favorite games at this time was Asteroids. Just an amazing game. And it just so happens at the junior high school near my house, they had Asteroids, Pac-Man and Phoenix. Now I liked Pac-Man. I got decent at it, but I never really had the patience or I was too ADD or whatever. I don't know. I didn't feel like learning the mazes to get really great at Pac-Man. You know, the patterns for the mazes, I should say. So I was okay at Pac-Man. I did all right at it. You know, just a Twitch game. I did okay. I got pretty good at it. Phoenix I got really good at because I was pretty good at these kind of shooters, what they used to call slide and shoot, where you go back and forth at the bottom of the screen, firing upward. I was pretty good at that game. Got really good, but I never quite mastered it. But Asteroids, holy cow. Let's talk about how I grew to dominate Asteroids and how good I got at it and how that happened. But very briefly, hit that like button if you would, and hit that subscribe button. It is super helpful. And you guys, let you know that I have a book on Kickstarter right now, Volume 2 of the NES Omnibus. That is on Kickstarter right now, and it's doing absolutely awesome. So if you guys could check that out, I will put a link in the description here. So I appreciate that. So Asteroids, see, got the shirt, the old iron-on patch. So Asteroids. Wow, what an amazing shooter. The old vector graphics type of game, and you're a ship flying all over the screen in all directions, shooting these asteroids and flying saucers and everything. Good, straightforward, revolutionary. At the time, it had come out in 1979, so in 1981, it was, you know, a little considered an older game, but I still absolutely loved it. But what was cool, the store called Quickway near the junior high school I went to, what was cool about them having Asteroids is I could play it more often because I would ride my bike to school and I would ride my bike home from school, obviously. But before school and after school, you know, I wasn't being taken by my mom. I had freedom. So I would go to Quickway, sometimes before school, a lot of times after school, after basketball practice, I would ride my bike to Quickway and play some Asteroids. Yeah, they didn't mind me there in the morning. They weren't too worried about truancy back then. Sometimes I would even miss or be late to school a little bit because I was playing Asteroids, but they weren't that concerned about it. Anyway, so yeah, back in this magical little corner in Quickway, they had Asteroids. And so many convenience stores. There were arcade games everywhere back then. They put them all over the place. I've even heard they were in a funeral home. I've heard that. That's the most craziest one I've heard. I remember at the Dallas Mavericks games, around the concourse, they had arcade games. Walmart had arcade games out front. I remember playing Asteroids at Walmart. I remember Gorf at Treasure City. You know, Safeway, drugstores, everywhere just had arcade games all over the place. It was a magical time. Like I said, the golden age. So anyway, having an Asteroid so close to my house, I could play it frequently. And I got really good at it. Now I did this so here's the method you use. So as you know, you're guiding this little triangular ship and you shoot asteroids and they break into smaller pieces. And when they're all gone, you advance and more asteroids come out. Well, these little flying saucers come out too, and the small flying saucers are worth 1,000 points. So it's a good strategy to shoot those. Well, I can't remember if I developed this method or I saw someone else doing it. I honestly cannot remember. But even when you develop the method I'm going to tell you about, it's still challenging, but it gives you an advantage. So what you do is you leave an asteroid on the screen, a slow moving one preferably, a small one preferably. You leave one asteroid on the screen without destroying it. And you just fly up the screen. Just zoom, because you know when you fly up the screen, you appear again at the bottom. Zoom, zoom. And as a flying saucer comes out, you point your ship at the flying saucer, fire off a string of bullets, and shoot it. And boom, if it's a small flying saucer, that's 1,000 points. And I can't remember off the top of my head how much the bigger flying saucers were, but those were, those were good points too. And every 10,000 points, you got an extra life in Asteroids if it was set on normal settings, which the one by Quickway was. So I would, and this method, it took some talent and it took some skill and it took some practice, but once you mastered it, having a slow rock out on the screen and flying up the screen again and again and shooting the flying saucer that would come out, pretty frequently, you could rack up high scores. And since you got a free ship for every 10,000 points, and there was no limit to how many ships you could win, if you played long enough, you would get ships lined up across the top of the screen. I remember 2-3 rows of ships across the top of the screen. I just completely dominated this game. And I'm not saying I'm great at video games or anything. I mean, I'm pretty decent at some of them. I'm very good at some, not so good at others. I was terrible at Spy Hunter. I never really got great at Defender or Stargate. Those are just difficult, brutally difficult games. Although I was pretty decent at Robotron 2084. But I digress. Asteroids, I absolutely dominated. And in a little bit in this video, I'm going to hook up my PlayStation 1 and crank up the old CRT TV, show you guys Asteroids emulated on the PlayStation, but the original arcade game. And I'm going to show you guys this method if you haven't seen it before. It's pretty cool, but very briefly, so I dominated this game at Quickway, and one night, I would usually play, like I said, in the morning or afternoon, and I wouldn't play Asteroids in the morning because I would play it too long, but I could get in a game of Pac-Man or Phoenix. But sometimes afternoons I would play for quite some time. Well, one evening I went by Quickway. I think it was about, I don't remember, 5, 6, 7. And I played this game for hours and I built ships across the screen. Now what I would typically do is if I had a bunch of ships across the screen, I would get tired of playing and I would sell my game. There'd be people around watching for maybe 50 cents because they'd say, hey, I could play Asteroids with a whole bunch of ships for 50 cents. Really cool. And I would make I would make some money on it. I'd put a quarter in, play it long enough to get a whole bunch of ships lined up, and then I would sell it for 50 cents because money was really tight then, and I would make a quarter off of playing this game. So pretty cool. I'd have fun and make some money. Well, one night I decided just to keep playing. I ended up playing for 4.5 hours. It was my marathon. That's the longest I've ever played any game, arcade game, without stopping. Obviously, I've played console games longer than that because you can pause and go away and come back and all that. That's the longest stretch I ever had on an arcade game, and I would have played longer, but the store closed and they kicked me out. So that's my marathoning Asteroids story. But years later, at Classic Gaming Expo in Las Vegas, that awesome late great video game convention, I ran into Brian Kuh. Now this was before the King of Kong. Brian Kuh, if you've seen the King of Kong, the documentary about Donkey Kong high scores with Billy Mitchell and everything and Walter Day, you guys know that Brian Kuh is the nerd that was walking around the arcade, Fun Spot Arcade, saying,
potential Donkey Kong kill screen if you want to watch. If anybody wants to see, there's a Donkey Kong kill screen coming up.
There's a Donkey Kong kill screen coming up, and he doesn't realize he's being very funny unintentionally, and it's just a hilarious part of the movie. He's walking around like this is such a big deal, Donkey Kong screen coming up, just walking around telling people, and most of whom seem sort of uninterested, but anyway, pretty funny stuff. But anyway, big nerd, great guy, really nice guy, nerd in a good way, really cool guy. So I'm talking to Brian Kuh because I know he's a high score guy. And so we're talking about, my collection of video games and arcades and stuff, and I'm describing my method of playing Asteroids well. Well, Brian Kuh is a purist, and he goes, that violates the spirit of the game. Well, I suppose it does, Brian, but hey, I got pretty good at it. But even at this point, even when you get good at leaving one space rock on the screen and shooting a bunch of flying saucers, there's still it's still challenging because you'll accidentally shoot that rock, and then as you progress into the game, tons and tons of asteroids will be on the screen. So I'm going to show you guys here right now. Heck, let's do this. I'm going to show you guys my method for doing well in Asteroids. Now, I'm not as good as it as I used to be, and I'm not gonna play for 4.5 hours. I'm just gonna give you a quick demonstration of how you too can be an Asteroids master, and then I'll see you right back on the other side. All right, let's see if I can still use my old method for dominating, cheating at Asteroids, however you want to put it. My method for raking up high scores, playing the game for hours on 1/4. So I need to leave one space rock out there. There's a good slow one, a small one, exactly what I want. And I'm just gonna keep shooting Asteroids, and I won't do this for a long time. I'll do this long enough to rack up a high, not a high score obviously. I'll do this long enough to rack up a extra ship. Well, bummer, see? It's not always foolproof, because the one space rock you leave on the screen, sometimes it will be destroyed, which makes it not a surefire method, but a pretty darn good one. So I just need to get the screen back down to one asteroid on the screen and start again. Shooting flying saucers. I remember one time playing Asteroids. We were on a church mission trip, and we had a little church band set up out in front of a Walmart. And I kept going inside Walmart to play Asteroids instead of pretending I was watching the band to try to get more people to watch. But hey, such is the allure of Asteroids. Alright, you don't ideally want a fast space rock, but hey, it's better than none. Ah, there you go. Like I said, it's tricky because you can indeed accidentally have that destroyed. I am a little rusty at this method. So let's do this one more time. Let's get it down to one rock. On the screen so I can start destroying some flying saucers for big points. There you see, I got an extra life. Alright, let's leave that slow in there if we can. Get rid of these others. Yeah, sometimes the flying saucer will come right out and destroy a asteroid, which is one way your method can be destroyed. Some people leave two just to I prefer leaving one. Alright, we'll do this a few more times, just kind of show you guys how it's done. And it helps to keep zooming up the screen, that way you're not a sitting duck for the flying saucer when it comes out. And it just has a good rhythm to it, and you can volley off a string of shots to destroy the flying saucer. Oh, there we go. Let's get to 20,000 and get another extra life. Well, there you go. You kind of get the idea of how to break the bank on asteroids. But as you can see, there's a lot more asteroids on the screen this time. So even when you master this method, it's still a challenging game. And I got to the point where I could play the game pretty well, even when it was just packed full of asteroids, and I'd be... Well, there you go. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, check it out. Next time you play Asteroids, try to play this method. Well, there you go. I'm not as good as I used to be, but I can still do it somewhat, or at least enough to show you guys how it's done. Anyway, I want to know from you guys, did you ever cheat at a game like this? Did you have some method where you could beat a game? You know, some people think memorizing the patterns in Pac-Man is a form of cheating, not really cheating, but just, you know, getting an advantage, an unfair advantage, or, you know, just what arcade game have you mastered? Is there a game that you're particularly good at, that you've developed a method or saw someone else use, that you've just completely dominated? So yeah, let me know in the comments a particular arcade game that you are awesome at, that you have mastered and dominated. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. And thanks to all of you that have backed the NES Omnibus Volume 2 on Kickstarter. It is so important. It is so awesome. Thank you so much. We will talk to you guys in another video.
Potential Donkey Kong kill screen if you want to watch. If anybody wants to see, there's a Donkey Kong kill screen coming up.